it's Thursday, and this week we are going to be making Cerberus. So last week you all voted on the community tab poll and we made roly-polies, but meanwhile over on Patreon, my patrons had an entirely different poll to vote in, and they picked the three-headed guardian of hell. Let's get into it. Okay, let's talk tools and materials. So to make Cerberus today, you're going to need 8-ply 100% acrylic yarn in at least one color. And for me, I've chosen purple today just because black doesn't show up super well on camera. But you're also going to need sort of some decoration type colors. So I've got a little bit of black, some white, a little bit of pink, and some dark blue. Those are to make things like claws, teeth, tongue, really just to add a few accents to the different faces to give them some personality. You're also going to need 3 pairs, so 6 in total, 12mm safety eyes. Now this will work with both larger and smaller eyes depending on your personal preference and the eyes available in your area, but I am using 12mm eyes on camera today. You're also going to need your 3.5mm hook, pins and needles, scissors, and some stuffing. But that's it. A written version of today's pattern will be sent out to my patrons and will also be listed on my Etsy, and I will leave a link to both in the description down below for anybody who is interested. Now, somehow today's pattern is easier than last week's, which I never thought I'd say about a 3-headed dog, but here we are. So I'm going to be making a purple Cerberus today because black sucks up all the light and I don't think you'll be able to see the stitches properly. So I'm going to grab my purple and we're going to start with a magic ring of 6. So we're starting today by working up the body piece. And we work it from the butt up towards the head. And then we're going to leave an opening and build our 3 heads into the same opening. And I will show you all of that, of course, one step at a time. So there is our starting point. We're then going to work 6 increases around to get us up to 12 stitches. And then 6 repeats of a single crochet and then an increase to get us around to 18 stitches in total. Like so. So then over rows 4, 5, 6, and 7, we're going to evenly place 3 increases per row, which will very slowly work us up to 30 stitches around. Now, as you work these rows, what you'll notice is that loading those increases into those 3 key points in each row is going to build you up a sort of sloped triangular shape. So we've built up sort of a nice butt here for our Cerberus. We have 30 stitches in our round, and now we're going to work 6 rows of 30 single crochet around for a combined total of 180 stitches. Just like that. So now we have a little tube of a body worked up. It's still vaguely triangular, but that's just kind of a breadth of form as opposed to like an overly imposed one. So the next thing we're going to be doing is preparing our opening to make it ready to fit 3 full heads in there, because currently it's only 30 stitches around and it's the whole width, and you don't really want a head attached to, you know, the chest. It doesn't really make any sense. So we're going to start loading increases across the top and decreases along the bottom to just move this gap further up the body and make it slightly wider to give us that little bit of extra room to move in. So in light of that, row 14 starts with 9 single crochet around. We are then going to work 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. And yes, I do my first one just through the front loop. Basically, that's a technique that helps me keep count of my stitches. I don't think it makes any visual difference. Like so. Then we're going to work 8 single crochet. And then we're going to work 3 single crochet all into the same stitch again. Then it's just 11 single crochet back to the starting point in our round. like so. So you'll see there, we've already just slightly changed the shape of our opening there. So you'll notice that these 2 points at the top will end up representing basically the shoulder blades on our finished sherby. Row 15 is very similar. We start with 10 single crochet, then 3 single crochet all into the same stitch, and that should fall in the middle stitch of the first 3 single crochet stitch that we did last round, like so. We're then going to work 10 single crochet across the top, bringing us to that middle stitch of our second 3 single crochet, and we're going to work 3 single crochet into that stitch, and then just 12 single crochet back to the start of our round. So there we are, we've expanded out the top of our opening like I said we would, and now we're just going to work a round of 38 single crochet to lock that shape in. Like so. And now we're going to start working to close off the bottom and sort of move this opening that way. So for row 17, we're going to start with 2 repeats of a decrease and then 3 single crochet. So there's our first repeat, and now I'm going to do it again. Decrease and 3 single crochet. I'm then going to work 4 single crochet around that shoulder blade. Then across the top, we're going to work 3 repeats of an increase and then 2 single crochet. Now I know this row has a lot of different sets of brackets in it, but if you just work through it just one chunk at a time, you'll find that it's not that complicated. We're then going to work 5 single crochet around the other shoulder blade. And then finally, 2 repeats of a decrease and then 3 single crochet to get us back to our starting point. So there's our first decrease. 1, 2, 3. And our second decrease. And 1, 2, 3. So it's not super obvious yet, but our opening has shifted slightly up the body. We're going to keep working on that in row 18. So we start with 2 repeats of a single crochet and then a decrease. So there's our first 1. And there's number 2. We're then going to work 9 single crochet up the side. Then an increase. 6 single crochet across the top. And then another increase. 8 single crochet down the other side. And then 2 repeats of a single crochet and then a decrease to get us back to the start of our round. Like so. So at this point, your round should have 35 stitches in it. This brings us to row 19, which is the last row of the body, and then we'll be doing a foundation row for the head. So row 19 starts with a single crochet, and then a decrease, then 2 single crochet, then 3 repeats of a single crochet and an increase. So there is our first one. That's our second. 1 more. Like so. And you'll note that this time those increases are kind of falling in the side, not across the top. We're then going to work 11 single crochet to get across the top to the other side. Like so. Then 3 repeats of a single crochet and an increase. Now we just need to work back to the start of our row. So in order to do that, we're going to work 3 single crochet, a decrease, and finally 2 single crochet. So that is technically the end of the body, and now we have 1 row to work to lay the foundation for the head. But before we do that, I want you just to count and make sure that your row has 39 stitches in it. That's super important for the next step. 39, and we're good. Okay, so to lay the foundation for the head, we did have the option here of putting 3 gaps next to one another, which would have worked fine, but it would have just been so square. And triangles are better. Triangles are going to carve this space up much nicer, and it's going to give us a main dominant head and then 2 side heads, which I feel is a little bit more, Cerberus. So in order to sort of lay the foundation to build those, we're going to start by working 4 single crochet. Which should leave you sort of off to one side of that under part. I'm then going to chain 6, and we are going to be working into these stitches, so don't pull them too tightly. So there is my 6. Then I'm going to skip the next 15 stitches of this body. So keep turning your work as though you're working into those stitches so that you insert your hook from the correct side when we go back. So this is the 16th stitch. We've skipped 15. And I'm going to insert my hook from the outside like I would normally and work a single crochet. You can mark that one if you have trouble differentiating between chains and stitches. I know that that's sort of like a fairly common thing. We are then going to chain 6 again. 5 and 6, like so, and skip the next 15 stitches. And this is the 16th stitch that I've got my hook inserted in now. And we're going to work 4 single crochet, which will get us back to the start of our round. Ta-da! So there are the triangles I spoke of. So we'll be building the main head from this middle triangle. And in fact, we're going to go straight onto that from here. So don't finish off or trim off your yarn. Then we'll build one on the right and one on the left. Okay, so as I said, we are continuing in this middle section to build up the base of one of our heads now. And we're going to start by working 4 single crochet along the front. That's basically just working single crochet into the stitches we single crocheted into last row, which will bring us to the base of our little chain here. And what we're going to do is work a single crochet into each one of those chain stitches. Now I'm just working them into sort of one side of the loops. You can work them into both if you prefer. You can even work your stitches over the tops of the chains if you prefer, but I did actually count them out and do it correctly this time, whereas sometimes I get really lazy with it. So you can put 1 stitch into each one of those chains, and that will get you the correct count. So we are, I have 6 single crochet along that chain, which brings us to that 1 single crochet at the back. And we're going to work a single crochet into that, and then turning and working into our second set of chains. Once again, put a single crochet into each one of them, which is 6 in total. Like so, which brings us back to our front, and we're going to work 4 single crochet along that to get back to our starting point. Like so. So you should have a new round now that has 21 stitches in it. And that is our foundation row for head number 1. So you're now going to work 4 rows of 21 single crochet in each for a combined total of 84 stitches. Like so. So you'll see that we've built out sort of a little bit of the base of the skull there. And now we're just going to narrow it off into kind of a snout-like point. So to do that, we're going to start with 9 single crochet. And we're then going to work a single crochet 3 together. And that's basically just a decrease over 3 stitches instead of 2. But I do those by just picking up the front loop of each of the next 3 stitches on my hook, yarning over and pulling up a loop through all 3, and then yarning over and finishing off my stitch. So there is 1, then I'm going to work 2 single crochet across the top of the head, and then another single crochet 3 together. Then we have just 4 single crochet to get back to the start of our round. So then row 7 of the head is 8 single crochet, then single crochet 3 together, and again single crochet 3 together, then 3 single crochet back to the start. So at this point you should have 13 stitches in your round. We're going to work 8 single crochet, then a regular decrease, then 3 single crochet back to the start of our round. There should now be 12 stitches in your round, so our final round consists of 6 decreases to get us down to 6 stitches. And then finish off. You will be left with this tiny opening in the top, and all we're going to do is take our remaining tail and pull it through the front loop only of each of those 6 remaining stitches. And pull to close. It's kind of like a drawstring bag. We're just going to tuck that end away inside the head. Now this is only the head base. We will be creating a separate piece over the top to add ears and other details. So we're really just looking for a foundational stump, which I think we have. A foundational stump with a chimney on either side that kind of look like mouse ears in the camera at the moment. But we'll be fixing that right quick. So now we need to build head number 2. And then the good news about this is because we have these openings, we don't need to worry too much about stuffing just yet. So we're just going to go straight into head number 2. So if you're looking straight at the head we just made, head number 2 is the one on the right. So there's this one here. So I'm just going to attach my base color to my hook with a slip knot. So I want to attach in a way that allows me to work into these 15 stitches around the outside edge first. So I'm going to turn it over and reattach here, sort of in the middle of the back of the neck. Now I'm going to attach with a standing single crochet stitch, but you can also just slip stitch, chain 1, and then single crochet over the top to get the same effect. It's my standing single crochet. So there is our first stitch of the row, and then we're going to work 14 single crochet around that outer edge. Like so. So that's going to bring us up to where we had our chain before, but we've already worked into that chain. Technically, we could work into the other side of those chain stitches, and you can do that if you want. But what I'm going to do, and what I'm going to suggest you do as well, is work front post single crochet up this edge of the head. So front post stitches are just when we work around the post of the stitch rather than through the loops. But otherwise, they worked exactly the same as single crochet. So there's our 1. And 6. So you'll note there's a little bit of a gap across this bridge between the first stitch in that row and the stitch we've just done. That's just not going to matter. We're going to sew that shut if it creates too much of a hole, but otherwise the next stitch you want to work is back into the first stitch to start row 2. So just like with the first head, you're now going to work 4 rows of 21 single crochet around to build up the base of the skull. Like so. See, it's sticking out at a different angle to the first head. But we are now going to close off into a very similar snout to this one here. Now the rotation of this is just going to dictate which way your head points. You can have a little bit of fun rotating this if you would like, but if you're not confident with like designing your own patterns, I suggest just doing what I do, which is a single crochet 3 together, then 2 single crochet across the top of the head, a single crochet 3 together, and then 13 single crochet back to the start of our round. Like so. We're then going to work 2 single crochet 3 togethers. So first 1, and then a second 1. Like so, and then 11 single crochet once again back to the start of our round. We are then just going to work a decrease and 11 single crochet, which will bring our round down to 12 stitches. ready for our final round, which is 6 decreases around. And finish off. And you can once again use that little tail to close off the opening at the end of his nose, like so. So now we have 2 heads and 1 little opening left to go. But before we start this head, we're going to take a moment and stuff our Cerberus. So I am going to recommend that you tear your stuffing into cotton ball sized puffs. This will save you from having any lumps or bumps where you don't want them. It gets you a more even and thorough stuffing experience. Which, I mean, I guess is what we're all looking for in life, right? Should do for now. So then I'm going to start by poking stuffing down into each one of the heads. And you can feel free to stuff this fairly firmly. And then stuffing the body. So that is what we currently look like. So now we just need to reattach our yarn again to build the 3rd and final head. So once again, we want to be able to work into these 15 external stitches first, but this time instead of joining at the top, that means that we have to join down here at the base of the neck. So once again, using either a standing single crochet or by slip stitching, chaining 1 and then single crocheting over the top. Attach your yarn in that first stitch, like so. We're then going to work 14 more single crochet around the edge, so that's 15 stitches in total. And it's a bit tricky to maneuver around the other 2 heads, but do your best. So that should once again bring us back to the side of that middle head. So we are going to, once again, based on however you did it on the other side, stitch 6 stitches along that edge. So you can do that in the back sides of the chains, or you can do front post stitching like I'm going to do. Which should bring you back to your starting point. Now I want you to double check that you have 21 stitches in your round. And if you do, you can move on to the next step, which is again, 4 rows of 21 single crochet around for a combined total of 84 stitches. Like so. Again, he's pointing off in just a slightly different direction, which I love. Gotta love that little bit of personality. And then you can work rows 6, 7, and 8 to get us back down to 12 stitches. Down to 12 stitches in our round. So before we go any further, we need to actually stuff this final head because we have no more convenient neck openings to use. Nom, 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 nom. And you'll note the more that we stuff, the more it kind of highlights these tiny little gaps where my structure wasn't well built enough. And I'm just going to very quickly resolve that with a needle and some yarn at the end. Like it's not a big deal. So with that done, I'm going to work a slightly different end to this one here just to give him a little bit more of an open mouth look and thus a slightly different personality to the other 2. You can choose to just do 6 decreases around like we did with the other 2 heads here if you prefer. We are going to work a decrease, then 6 back post single crochet, which is like front post, but from the inside of the work instead of on the top of the work. And then 2 decreases to finish the row. So it's only a very slight difference, which is why I'm saying you can just do decreases if you prefer. And finish off. There are still 9 stitches in our round, but we are still just going to use our tail to weave through the front loops only of each of those stitches, and we'll pull it tight to close. Tuck that end away. So there is our 3-headed base nugget. See how superior triangles are? Look at that beautiful head positioning that we get because of that, rather than having all three of them in a line. Boring old line. No, this gives us dimension and perspective, and one of them looking off here, and one of them over here, and one of them looking straight down the length. It's good, okay? I'm pleased with this structure. I can't help myself. So now we can pop that to one side, and we're going to start making his faces. So we're going to make these in our base color again, but you can feel free to customize this however you like. So this particular piece is worked flat, so we're going to start by chaining 8. Like so. I'm then going to turn, and we're going to start in the second chain from our hook, and we're just going to work 7 single crochet back along those chains. Like so. Then chain 1 and turn, so you're working back into the stitches we just did, and once again work 7 single crochet back across to the other side. Chain 1 and turn. So there is the foundation for our snout, and now we need to broaden out slightly into the top part of the face. So we're going to work an increase into the first stitch, 5 single crochet across, and then an increase into the last stitch, meaning you now have 9 in your row. Chain 1 and turn, and we're going to do that again. So increase in the first stitch, single crochet across, though of course this time there's room for 7, and then increase in the last stitch in the row. Now this brings your row up to 11 stitches. Chain 1 and turn. We're going to do that for just one more row. So increase in the first stitch, 9 single crochet across, and then an increase to finish your row. Bringing you up to 13 stitches. Chain 1 and turn. You are then going to work 2 rows of 13 single crochet, chaining 1 and turning at the end of each row. So that is what your face piece should currently look like. In row 9, we're going to build him some ears. So we're going to start by working 4 single crochet, which brings us to where I'm going to position my first ear. Now I'm not someone who tends to use stitch markers, but you might find it easier to have some of these on hand for this next step. So in the next stitch, we're going to build him an ear, and we're going to work through the front loop only of our stitch, leaving the back loop free for later. So what you can do now is take one of your stitch markers if you would like to use them, and just mark that back loop so that you can find it later on. So working in our front loop, we are going to put a single crochet, then a half double crochet, which is when you yarn over your hook, insert through the loop, yarn over and pull up a loop, leaving you with 3 on your hook, then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So there is our half double crochet. Then we're going to work a double crochet. So yarn over our hook, insert into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Again, you've got 3 on your hook, so you're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2, then yarn over and pull through the second 2. And there is your double crochet. So that's the first half of the ear. And now I want to give them points because I am modeling my Cerberus after, I think it's a bulldog of some kind. It's kind of like a pibble, kind of like a bulldog. So I want to put a picot at the top of this ear. And I'm going to do that by chaining 3. I chain the first one pretty loosely and the next 2 fairly tightly, like so. Then I insert my hook into the first of those chains and work a slip stitch into it. You'll see that gives us this tiny little point that's going to form the tip of the ear. So then we're not done working into this stitch yet, I'm afraid. We are going to work another double crochet, a half double crochet, and finally a single crochet. So all of that was in the front loop of the same stitch. We've got our back loop there marked for a later row. And there is your first little ear. So now we're going to go back to working across our face, and we're just going to work 3 single crochet across. So 1, 2, 3, which brings us to where we're going to position our second ear. I'm once again going to just mark that back loop. I much prefer bobby pins for this, but I can't find any at the moment. So there we go, I've got my 2 back loops marked. And then in the front loop, we're going to build our second ear. So we work a single crochet, a half double crochet, a double crochet, and then a picot. Halfway done, a double crochet, half double crochet, and then finally a single crochet to finish off his ear. Then we have just 4 single crochet to finish our row. So from this point onwards, you should be very careful about what you say about him. He can hear you. Now I know this doesn't look like much at the moment, but trust me, it will end up looking very spiffy. So now we want to go around and smooth out some of these edges and add a little bit more of definition to the snout. So we're going to do everybody's favorite thing and rotate our work so that we're looking at the edges of our rows. And we're going to single crochet down these edges. So in the official pattern, I'm going to tell you to work 7 single crochet, and we do that just by inserting our hook into the end of each row and working our single crochet. Now I do just want to say that the exact stitch count down the sides of these face pieces doesn't matter. As long as you end up with sort of roughly 7 stitches, and as long as you do your best to keep it the same length on either side of the face, so if you do 7 stitches down one side, do 7 stitches down the other, that should still all be fine. That should still work out. We're just doing this to neaten that up a little bit. So there is my 7. That brings us to the 7 stitches at the end of our snout. So in the first one, we're going to work an increase just to help us turn that corner. So one of those stitches will kind of be on the side, and then one will kind of be on the front because we rotate as we work it. In the next opening, we're going to work 5 half double crochet all into the same stitch. Like so. And that should leave you with 5 stitches still available along the end of our snout. We're going to skip the next one and then slip stitch, leaving you with 3. Make sure that you can see where those 3 are. We're going to skip the next one and then 5 half double crochet all into the same stitch. Like so. Then that's going to try its best to swallow that final opening, and we're just going to work an increase into it to rotate so that we're facing up the other side, like so. So we're then going to work 7 single crochet back up to the top corner, though again, if you worked a different number of stitches on yours, try and mirror however many stitches you used on this side as well. Seven. And then with one final rotate, we're going to work along the back of the head. So that starts with 4 single crochet to get to where our first ear is. Then we're going to skip all of the stitches of that ear and instead work a single crochet into the back loop that we marked behind it. You're then going to identify the 3 stitches between the ears and put a single crochet into each of those. Then once again, fold the ear out of the way and put a single crochet into the back loop that we marked in the previous round. And then a single crochet into each of the 4 stitches to get us to the end of our row. And finish off. So there is our face piece with our 2 little ears. And it really kind of comes to life once you actually position it onto the foundation, which gives it its shape. Bork, bork. So the next thing that we're going to do with this one here is we're going to grab our eyes and we're going to pop them through and attach the backs. So these eyes go into row 3. So you need to kind of disregard this little snout piece and then count 3 rows back. So 1, 2, 3. And you want them 1 to 2 visible stitches in from the side of your work. 2 stitches there. Just pop those through and just look at it and make sure that it's even. And you can give it a curve to get a better idea of what that shape will be. And I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to pop my backs on. Alas, I'm afraid these plastic ones just don't make the good sounds. Them snapped on there good and tight. So with one of those made, you're actually going to need 2 more. Now it's a party. All these little disembodied puppy heads. All right, pop those to one side. Right, so next up we need to make him some legs. So because I'm basing him on a bulldog and because he has 3 heads to manage the weight of, his front legs are quite beefy and his back legs are a little bit shrimpy, where normally I do that the other way around. So in my base color, I'm going to start with a magic ring of 6 single crochet. Like so. I'm then going to work 3 single crochet, and then 3 increases to build up the flat of his foot. We kind of want an interesting oblong type shape, which is why I haven't increased evenly around. So there is the sole of his foot. Now I want to do my claws in a different color. I have this blue all prepared. It's going to make this section way harder than it needs to be, so feel free to choose not to do it. So for color changes, you always work them in the stitch before you want the new color to be active. So I just need to frog the final stitch of row 2, and I'm going to use it to make my color change instead. So for anyone who's interested, the way I work my color changes is I insert my hook into the stitch, yarn over with my old color and pull up a loop. And then I hold that color out of the way, grab my new color and pinch it at the base of the stitch on the inside of the work, then yarn over with that new color, pull it through both loops, and tug on the tails to tighten that stitch down. So that leaves me with a stitch in my old color, but my new color's on my hook, ready to go. Because I'm going to be swapping back to my main color later, I'm not going to bother trimming it off. I'm just going to either carry it under with me or I'll pull it across when I'm ready for it. So that brings me to the start of row 3, where we're going to build out 3 fairly large claws for what they are. So that's going to start by working a triple crochet into the front loop only of the next stitch. So a triple crochet I think is the same as a treble crochet. It's just everybody uses different language. But you do them by yarning over your hook twice, inserting your hook through the front loop only of your stitch, yarning over and pulling up a loop. So you should have 4 loops on your hook. Then yarn over and pull through the first 2. Yarn over and pull through the next 2, and yarn over and pull through the final 2 stitches. So that is what my treble crochet currently looks like. I'm then going to fold it forward and work a slip stitch into the back loop of the same stitch. So that just helps anchor down our claw in this little folded over position. So I'm going to work 2 more of those now. So triple crochet in the front loop, and then slip stitch into the back loop. So then we have 6 single crochet to finish our row, and I'm going to change back to my purple in the next stitch. And I can now trim off the blue. I'm kind of superstitious about that, and I like to wait 1 row before trimming off any extra colors, but that can technically be trimmed off now. Like so. So there is the base of his front foot. So in this next row, we're going to not work into any of the slip stitches from the previous row. We're going to just work into the treble crochets and the single crochets. So we're going to work 9 single crochet around. From here, we want the leg to angle backwards slightly, so we're going to be loading some decreases at the front and some increases at the back. Now, anyone who's confused as to why I would do that, you should check out my recent shaping video. We'll go into all the details as to why I shape the way that I shape. And you'll notice that this row still maintains at 9 single crochet around. Just sort of moves where the row sits overall. So that brings us to row 6, and we're going to do the same thing again. So with a decrease at the front, some single crochet up the side, an increase at the back, and then some single crochet back to our starting point. And then row 7, we're going to work a row of 9 single crochet around, just to kind of add a little bit more length to our leg, like so. So as I mentioned, I want these front legs to be fairly beefy. So from here, I kind of want to flare out into a way more muscular upper arm. In order to do that, we're going to start by working 2 single crochet, then 3 single crochet all into the same stitch, 4 single crochet to get to the back of the leg, and 3 single crochet all into the same stitch again. And then a single crochet to finish our round. That should bring our round up to 13 single crochet. Row 9 is going to expand upon that shaping again. So start with 3 single crochet, then 3 single crochet all into the same stitch, 6 single crochet up the side, three single crochet in the same stitch, and 2 single crochet back to the start of our round. That's what we currently look like. And you have 17 stitches in your round. So now you're going to work 2 rows of 17 single crochet for a combined total of 34 stitches. Like so. So now all we want to do is narrow back off the top of this arm to close it in. So in order to do that, we are going to work a single crochet and then 5 repeats of a single crochet and then a decrease. So there is our first 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then a single crochet to finish our round, which should leave you with just 12 stitches around. And at this point, you're going to grab just a little bit of stuffing, not a lot, tiny bit of stuffing, maybe even half that. And you're just going to stuff up to basically row 7 of the foot, but it's basically just up to the chunky point. We need the chunky point to sit flat against the body when we assemble. So you're really just stuffing that foot. So that's empty. Filled to about here. So now we're just going to work the final row of 6 decreases. And finish off. Then once again, use your tail to close off the opening at the top of the leg. And there is your first front leg. And you are of course going to need 2 of those. Pop those to one side. So now we just need to make the, again, somewhat shrimpy back legs. And these are constructed largely the same way we do the front legs. So we're going to start with a magic ring of 6. And then 3 single crochet and 3 increases, changing to our claw color in the final stitch. Then building 3 claws by putting a triple crochet in the front loop and a slip stitch in the back loop of the same stitch. And 6 single crochet to finish our round, changing back to your main color in the first stitch. So there is the sole of our back foot. So now we need to work 9 single crochet around, and just like with the front feet, we are going to skip any slip stitches and work just in the triple crochets and the single crochets. We're then going to once again slope our legs backwards by putting decreases at the front of our row and increases at the back. And we're going to do that for both row 5. And row 6. We're then going to work 2 rows of 9 single crochet around for a combined total of 18 stitches. So there we go. Now in row 9, we are going to slightly increase the front and the back of our leg. So not to the same degree as with our front legs, but just a little bit to give it some shape. So we do that by working 2 single crochet, then an increase, which should fall kind of in the center front of your leg, then 4 single crochet, and this increase should fall roughly in the center back of your leg. Then 1 single crochet to finish our round. We then just have one more round of 11 single crochet. And finish off. So through the opening at the top of the leg, you are going to put just a little bit of stuffing in the foot. And I'm stuffing mine to about halfway. There is our first one. And you are of course going to need 2 of those. And finger puppets would be a lot of fun, I think. I'm right-handed. What am I doing? Okay, pop those to one side. Now, I did extensive research on this next bit, and there seems to be a slight disagreement between artist rendering and the original descriptions of Cerberus's tail. So some describe it as an actual serpent, and some describe it as like a serpent's tail. So I've decided to interpret it as, first of all, the serpent's tail, which to me is like a dragon's tail. So I'm going for a very quintessential dragon's tail with a very defined point at the end. I just feel like this piece needs a little bit of explanation before we start. Anywho, I'm going to be working mine once again in my main base color here. And I'm going to start with a magic ring of 6. So there is the tip of our tail. We're now going to work 2 repeats of a single crochet, an increase, and then a single crochet. So there is our first one, and we're going to do that again on the other side of the round. So you should have 8 stitches in your round. So row 3 and 4 work the same way. Each one consists of 2 repeats and 2 increases, helping to build up a flat triangle shape. So there is the tip of our tail. So the next row, I'm going to employ some trickery, so watch carefully. We're going to work 2 single crochet, 1 and 2. Then we're going to skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and work 3 single crochet. And then skip 3 again. So 1, 2, 3, and a single crochet to finish off our round. So our round now consists once again of 6 stitches, but the 2 points of that triangle will stick out the sides. You're then going to work 2 rows of 6 single crochet for a combined total of 12 stitches. So there is the tip of our tail, a little arrow. And now we want to just give it a few curves, because if I'm going to call it a serpent's tail or the tail of the serpent, it needs to just have a little bit of sass to it, you know? So we're going to use some tactically placed increases to do that. Row 8 is going to start with 3 single crochet. And then I want my tail to curve this way, so I'm going to put 2 increases. Just like so, and then a single crochet to finish the round. So you should have 8 stitches in your row now. Row 9 starts with 4 single crochet, then 2 increases, then 2 single crochet to get us back to the start of our round. And you should now have 10 stitches in your round. So row 10 kicks it up a notch, and we're going to start with 2 decreases, 1 single crochet, 4 increases, and then a single crochet to get to the start of our row. And see the little curve we're starting to build up? Sass. Sass is just pouring off it. It's great. But it is time to start toning it down a little bit. So we don't want to curve any more this way, but we do want to just close off this side to bring the bulk of the tail swinging back around. So to do that, we're going to work 2 decreases and then 8 single crochet. Then for row 12, it's working 1 decrease and then again 8 single crochet. So your round should be back to 9 stitches now. And we want to give it just one final curve, but we want it to go back the other way because S curves always look better. And that's just, I mean, I think, that's what I think, but it's my pattern, so I'm allowed to think it. And we're going to start by working 2 increases. So there's 1. And there's 2. Then 2 single crochet. We're going to single crochet 3 together and then 2 single crochet back to the start of our round. Now that should preserve our row count of 9 single crochet. So we're going to work the final 2 rows of 9 single crochet for a combined total of 18 stitches. And finish off. So for this piece, I'm only going to stuff kind of this first half and then just leave the rest of this a little bit more loose. And there is the tail. It's got this little arrow on top. And that's what I mean about going for a little bit more of a traditional dragon type tail as a translation of the tail of the serpent. So now we should have all of our pieces. The time has come to assemble. So before we get started with the bulk assembly, we're going to do a little bit of customization on each of these faces. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab some black and we're going to stitch on a nose. In order to do that, I'm going to fold my face in half and you should see that we have 4 stitches basically forming the end of the nose here. Well, it should be anywhere between like 3 and 5 technically. And basically, as long as you've got the slip stitch in the middle and at least 1 half double crochet from each of those fans that we made, that's your nose. So I'm going to take a little bit of my black and I'm just going to stitch over the top of those stitches in a horizontal direction to form a snoot. It doesn't have to be big, but you do want no purple or base color peeking out in between the strands of black, which is why mine's kind of gone on as long as it has. I will cover that. There we go, cute little snoot. And I'm going to finish off on the inside of my face so that we can't see the ends. Ooh, it's a little bit horrifying in here. We don't like that. And trim off. So there is the nose. Now, for each one of these faces, I kind of want to give them a little bit more personality. I don't really want all 3 to look exactly the same. So for one of them, I want to add a tongue sticking out of his mouth. And I'm just going to whip that up really quick with a magic ring of 6. And then just working short rows of 2 single crochet each until I've got my tongue to its desired length. That has to be a new sentence, surely. So I think for me that's going to just be 2 rows and finish off. So there we go. So one of them will be a goofy puppy with his tongue sticking out. One of them I'm going to give really like angry eyelids to, and one I think I'm going to give more of a neutral expression. I'm going to go ahead now and just add noses and eyelids to all 3 of them. So there are my three faces. So I think I'm going to have angry face on the left, neutral face in the middle, and then doofus on the right. And we love doofus very, very much. It's like we've got Sir, Burr, and Russ. So next up, we're going to grab our head and body base piece here. And we're going to pin our faces on. Now, you may have noticed that some of these heads are pretty close together. This is going to be a squashy exercise, but you'll see what I mean as we go on. So I'm going to grab the head that's going to go in the middle. So we're going to squeeze the back of the head between the ears as far back on that head stump as it can fit, with the other two being where they are. Put a little pin in place. You'll note that we have kind of a large pocket of extra room. That will go away as soon as you like tilt your eyes so that they go downwards into the head instead of sticking up the way that they do. It's going to take a little bit of wriggling. You'll get them both to settle. You might want to put a pin on either side of the face, just below the eyes, to help hold them in that position. Once it's sewn down, they'll just stay in. And then smoosh the end of the nose down. Like so. Many pins it takes, buddy. Many pins it takes. So there is the middle head attached. Or pinned in place anyway. Now I am going to loosely pin the other two in place just to give you a kind of a feel for it, but realistically you should probably sew this one on before moving on to the next one. So with the angry face, he's going to go on this one over here. You'll note that the sides of the head are going to overlap slightly. The ears will be squished in there. It's all very, very squashy. And then doofus is going to go off to the other side. So I'm going to grab my purple yarn and just sew this head in place the whole way around now. Boop. So there's the first one, completely attached and sewn on. By keeping your stitches sort of one row back from the edge of the work, you'll be able to maintain that lip that we worked so hard to stitch in, rather than having it like melt into the work. So next up we are going to do doofus, I think, and it's all kind of the same way. So lining up the snout with the end of our head base piece. He's looking right at you. You must sense that you have food. Then sort of squidging the eyes down into the head base piece as you go. Pull the back of the face piece to the back of the head stump. And on the inner side, you are going to have to like tuck it behind the ears of the middle one. Now, while you're stitching these side ones on, you can take a moment to stitch shut any kind of openings in your base piece that are bothering you as well. And for this one here, I'm just going to take my tongue piece and position that so I stitch it in at the same time. So I'm going to sew him on now. Like so. So now we have neutral and doofus. So we have one more head to attach, which is of course Mr. Cranky Pants. And it's on the head where I've given it like this little extra lip. I don't think I applied that so that I could, you know, put something in his mouth if I wanted to, or stitch on some little teeth. I don't know if I'm going to do that. I'm gonna sort of pin my face piece in place and just see how I feel about it. So once again, we are kind of wrestling it to fit it around that middle face, which is why we applied the middle face first, by the way. So yeah, I could like wrinkle up that nose a little bit, give him a real snarl. I don't know if I want him to look quite that mean though. I kind of don't mind him just sort of having, I don't even know if you can see that on camera, I don't even just mind him just having that little bit of a lip. Maybe I'll just stitch a little bit of white on the inside of it. He kind of just like looks like he's got an overbite. Yeah, what's up, Doc? But I don't know, I kind of like it. It gives him a point of difference from the other two anyway. So the other thing that I've kind of changed about him is his ears are going to be sort of flat back on the head to add to the meanness, whereas the other two kind of have more friendly body language going on with their ears. So I'm just going to sew this last face piece on now. Like so. So now we have his 3 heads all attached and sewn on, and he's got all kinds of split personalities going on. we can finally attach the legs. So we did the heads first because they add a lot of weight to the front of him, and we need to make sure that we position the legs afterwards to help him balance. So I'm going to start by pinning our front legs in place. So the front legs are pretty easy to position. We have the neck of each of our side doggos to help us line those up. So this front little angle on the front of the front legs butts up against the neck of each of the side heads. And I'm just going to pin that in place. Now these can just be starting positions where we loosely rough out where they are to begin with, and then move them around to pose him or give him better balance, basically. So that's roughly where those will go. Hopefully you can get kind of the bulldog influence that I have going there. I will finesse those a little bit more in a minute. Then we have our back legs, and we're going to squish the tops of them shut and line them up as far towards the back of the body as we can get so that the feet line up flat with our front feet. My turtle is of course being the hero of the day, but has been largely off camera. Okay, he's balancing pretty well at this point. I'm just going to pin the other back leg on. And once happy, set your doggo down and make sure all 4 feet are touching the ground. So when happy and balancing, we're going to pin his tail to the center of his back. And I like to have mine so that it curves towards the back like that. So with all of those pieces pinned in place now, I'm going to take some of my purple yarn and just sew all of them on. So there is our finished Cerberus. I hope you had fun making him with me today, and I hope that sewing didn't give you too much trouble. But otherwise, that's it for this week. Okay, bye.